Okay, so basically I'm going to review my story in picture form, and my story is going to be shown to you via a PowerPoint that's called Jesus Defeats Nanotechnology Weapons. So basically I have been attacked with military-grade nanotechnology 8 times, and I had 2 threats also. So altogether there were 10 attempts on my life. The first attempt was in July of 2011 under the auspices of a surgery procedure, sinus surgery. And so that's the most well documented, so I'm going to go through the PowerPoint with you on that one. And then what we'll do is we'll go through a few others after the PowerPoint. So basically, if you want any more in-depth information on what we're talking about as far as these reports that are referenced in this discussion now, you can certainly go to www.clergyvictim.com, and on the left-hand side, on the second tab down, it will say military-grade nanotechnology used in efforts to silence informant. And now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through an introduction that gives the big picture in terms of what everybody's going to have to face eventually. Right now, though I have been attacked, my life has been in threat, utilizing military grade or designer or innovative nanotechnology, everyone is going to have to face this at one point or another. So here's the introduction. My story reflects the intention of human trafficking and genocide for all mankind by the dark side for being tethered to AI systems, experiments, torture, etc., wherein the ultimate objective is to network the biological systems of man with a system of artificial intelligence, reducing humanity to a totally controllable status. This is being accomplished through many different programs, operations, and applications that attack mankind's environment. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, the products we use, and the information systems we are exposed to. In my case, the use of military-grade nanotechnology as a CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear weapon, was used with efforts to kill me 10 times. I have survived these attacks by the grace of God through living in hiding since 2013. Prior to 2013, I was actively using aliases, but I was on the run from 2013 until Donald Trump took office in late of 2016. So we're going to get into the PowerPoint right now. Okay, so we're going to review this PowerPoint, Jesus Defeats Nanotechnology Weapons, My Story of Success. Military-grade nanotechnology can be defeated. So basically, as mentioned previously, this is the most documented first attack of the bioweapon that was used, and so the biotech. So basically, I went to I was feeling sick all the time, and I couldn't understand what was going on. I ate very well, I exercise, I do all the things that I thought was necessary to care for my body, so I didn't understand why I was sick. I ended up going in for a sinus surgery in July of 2011, and there was some strange documentation that I came across in the pathology report reflected that there was an unknown doctor on the actual report. So I did some research into that, and the doctor indicated that that was never seen before. He's never experienced that, and he asked me to speak with somebody else who might have an understanding as to what had occurred. So I just kept the data and kept collecting it, and kept a journal of the symptoms that I was feeling, because after the sinus surgery, I ended up having something like, it felt like hives, or I was very itchy, so I went to the doctors a couple of times, and I used some creams, and the creams, there were no bed bugs, there was nothing like that. This was for 5 weeks, a very strange reaction. Later to find out it was the nano infecting my body, because the nano is encased in a viral envelope, so your body will go through the process of as if you're going through a viral attack. So then I started to put my symptoms in the computer. I typed in the symptoms of what I was going through with a series of commas, and this is what I came up with. And it said that I was exposed to some kind of a microwave exposure. And so that was strange to me, again, because I didn't even use a microwave to pop popcorn. So I just kept the data and was trying to figure out what was going on here. So then I went to a doctor and wanted to test my urine for levels of different metals, and sure enough, there were metals here that weren't normal, weren't typical, like gadolinium and others. Other people will probably have mercury and aluminum, but these are definitely not the norm of what's typical in the human biological system. Then I retested later my hair for accuracy, and of course I started to do several months of clay cleanses, special baths with clays, and I could see that there was a reduction in the heavy metals, so this was a really great start to starting to feel better. And then I ended up going through a file that I had regarding my uncle who was targeted. I helped him way back in 2006. We opened up a congressional file, and I remembered strange symptoms he was going through. So I took his file and read through it and saw that there was a Columbia Investigations that was connected to a James Walbert. And so I went through the file and just, thought maybe I might reach out to James and see if perhaps there's something really strange like that happening to me too. So after contacting James, we went through a Skype conversation, and he said, in fact, that there were signals coming out of my ears. He recommended I get a JM20 Pro. So I did that, and then I said, I don't think so. I don't think this is happening to me. And so I went to Columbia Investigations to get an objective look into what's happening. So I went to Melinda Kidder, who was a private investigator at the time that was doing this type of work, and her findings showed that there were, in fact, ELF scans, through her scanning and RFID and so forth. There was a bunch of signals coming out of me, primarily in the area of the mastoid air cell region, which is in the back of the head. So this is part of the report there. And of course, this is the different kind of equipment that was used. And here is the actual the signals that were coming out in the back part of the head here. And so she also noted that there was a scar on my jawline, which I didn't have any understanding as to why I would have that. And she did other tests, and the bottom line is there were signals coming out from my body to the environment. So it was like I was a walking, talking cell phone. Then from this point, I went from Melinda to Dr. Hildegard Staninger, but first, I had to get a doctor's recommendation to do that in accordance with doctor's protocols. So I went ahead, and the toxicological findings, the urine test, the hair test, and Hildegard opened her doors to me. And at this stage, I brought this report, the Melinda Kidder's report, to Dr. Hildy. And in the course of gathering this evidence, I was staying in hotels and found strange things happening, like forwarding active was on my phone. And also, the very same day I went to get the test in 2012 by Columbia Investigations, I noticed a strange sensation in my ears, and the rest of my body felt very strange. And this was the actual activation of the nanomaterials that were put in my body at the time of the surgery. So what we have here, attempts to intercept my communications, and they were successful. So I was running into issues with my computer, and then I purchased other phones, and this one said call divert set. I was staying in a hotel at the time, I believe this was in California. And once the nanomaterials were activated, I was unable to sleep for 3 to 4 weeks. It was really, really very difficult. But we were able to find a way to get me to sleep. Then I kept monitoring my progress. When I went to see Dr. Hildegard Staninger, I had the JM20 Pro, and I just kept looking at what my body was doing when it was activated, and kept a journal, a really, really well-detailed journal, so I could see my results and find out what would actually work to diminish this technology. And at the chemical basis, Dr. Hildegard encouraged me to take herbs and a bunch of other supplements, and I mixed and matched different technologies and so forth. And the most important thing that I believe is our mindset. So if we think of disease, that's going to intensify it. And just like the scripture says, we become what we think about. So we as people have the capacity to override signals that are man-made. We have a special capability within us to raise our frequency very, very high and to be able to surpass these technologies. So our attitude is our altitude. So I just kept focusing on healing and believed that that could be possible, even though I didn't know how it would happen. I just kept believing it. So here we to the toxicological findings, and of course it dovetailed directly into the scanning report that was done previously, and it certainly showed that my body was introduced to military grade nanomaterials, or biotech. So the summary here, I'm going to do what I can to read the conclusions on this. Of course, this is just evidence to show you that this is in fact a real report. That there's the reason and the purposes that is behind this technology was for specific reasons, and soon we'll get to that. This is just indicating that the report that the toxicological findings reflected was indeed connected to the Federal Communications locations. And then the next step was that I would go to Dr. Privatera of blessed memory. He had passed away, and he recommended I get an MRI of the head with special attention to the ears, because that's where I noted a lot of pain. When I would descend on the plane, I noticed that I had like pinkish ooze coming out of my ears, which was, I guess, blood mixed with something else. And so it was very, very painful, and that pain happened to me twice when I descended a plane. So needless to say, I didn't do much traveling by plane since then. We have the MRI before the surgery indicating there's not a lot going on here. The whole purpose of getting the MRI was to see if it would be okay to get the polyp removed from the right sinus and to do some reconstructive surgery, because I was having real difficulties breathing. And so there was nothing really noted here. Everything was a-okay to go into the surgery. Then after the surgery, under the impressions below, it indicates that there was mild opacification of the mastoid air cell, which is interesting because that correlates to the Columbia Investigations report showing that there was a signal, in fact, in the same location. So this is the MRI before the surgery. There's nothing really going on in the area near the ears. And then the MRI after the surgery shows the nanomaterials are present in the ears and around the ears, and it webbed all the way around my head and all the way around the skull and so forth. So it was pretty fast acting stuff here. The surgery after this MRI, I ended up getting tests done. And of course, it required that I would get like probably 150 vials of blood, within two visits. So probably there's about 75 vials there. And after that, I was able to do the healing process, which took 5 to 6 months, So as I was doing these cleanses and healing, I noticed things were coming out of my skin, so I would collect the samples properly and then have them sent through chain of custody to Dr. Hildy and her labs. And the findings, this is the king of all tests. It's called Raman spectroscopy. And these are the contents collected from my scalp. And these are deadly things that are not of human origin. So, of course, you can see that it's at the millimeter scale there. They're really small. And the origin of the specimens, that's the test that went along with that, Raman spectroscopy. Now, what Raman spectroscopy does with FTIR and other tests like this, it will actually break down the composite materials and show what the material that was collected, what is that made out of? What's the percentage of, what are the elements that were found? And of course, nanocomposite materials were in fact found. The dragon protein was found also at the nanoscale in my body. This dragon protein was for the purposes of monitoring my genetics. The purpose and the summary. Now this is important because different kinds of nanotech have different purposes. In this particular attack, these were the findings of what they were looking to do. Conclusional summary. The integration of nanotechnology into the biosensory world to monitor or control human life is where the line in the sand is drawn for the human being. The majority of high-impact technologies that utilize brain-computer interfaces as a neuronet, neurotree network, brain chip, or biosensor would be for the following: control and monitoring of the brain and bodily functions, control and monitoring of the behavior of the individual, thoughts, temperature, etc., sending and receiving verbal commands, stimulation of bioelectrical transmissions within the neuron trees of the nerves, to be utilized as a listening device for remote sensing and monitoring, to be used as a transmitter for listening in on conversations within a specific area that the individual may be in where the device has been implanted in them. If there is a digital computer component to the device, it should be used to capture visual transmissions as a walking, talking monitoring system, a high-tech extrinsic spying system, especially for military industrial espionage. So that's what the summary was. And of course, in my case, I was very puzzled as to why someone would want to bother with me. I was a nun for 14 years in the Catholic Church, and I ended up getting to know way too many things. So in 2008, I left the Roman Catholic Church. And so if you want to learn more about my story in that regard, you are welcome to go to clergyvictim.com. And there are interviews on that website where I get into my story. But the main purpose here is that I want to share with you these things did in fact happen to me, and that I am truly healed and I'm continuing to heal. So the real message here is of hope. And so you're definitely welcome to go and explore more about the history and what happened to me and why and so forth. Little picture. Keep my chin up. I found that on the internet of a cat with a cute little thing on there on the top of its head. So it's all about attitude. Now, monitoring my head, I purchased the X-Tech, not for purposes of monitoring other people or anything. I just wanted to see what my progress was and what, therapies would be working to break up the materials in my body. And so I was at 0.02 microtesla, and then later, I ended up getting back to 0.00, which is where we want to be. Then we have the microcosm and macrocosm, YRF and nanotech. So basically this is just how micro chips are in essence the macrocosm to the microcosm, which is nanotechnology, which operates far better and far faster and far more efficiently in terms of their purposes of gathering the data and so forth that they'd like to do to people. I tried a lot of different things to block the signals. I used lead aprons and things like that. It didn't really work for me. I did find out a combination of things that did work for me in my crash course in Countermeasures. But again, there's no blanket answer for everybody. I can't just say, everybody, this is going to work for you, because each attack is specific. So in my case, I was able to determine what kind of shielding would be proper to shield me while my body was healing of these technologies. Of course, I tried the lead hood, and that definitely did not work. I used gels and other products from Dr. Hildy. And she has wonderful book on mindset there. It's like a spiritual, exercise, Portals to Destiny. Very, very good. And her other devices ended up helping to break up the material. So very, very, very helpful alongside with other technologies. Prayer is going to be the key. That's my belief, that prayer is going to be the key to getting through this experience to the other side. So I basically asked many people all over the world to pray for me during this process and continue to do so. Shielding your home is important. This was just a Mylar sheet, but even the little simple Mylar sheet did assist with the signals, the blocking of the signals, and without it, I could see that was the place where I used to live. There was, in the red, that was very painful, the microwave signals that were being sent to me there. This was in a hotel, and they were still aiming signals at me in a hotel, and of course they put me in room 322. And as we can tell, they're welcoming me with 322, and the word down there, the password happy, was also another password that I used. So I found that very interesting. The 322 commemorates the fall. Genesis 3, verse 22 gets into the fall and commemorates that. I purchased the Asico for daily monitoring of progress, but found that the DS100 was far better for me in terms of monitoring if my mechanisms were helping. Then, this is the good news. So then we retest the signals. I went in and visited Columbia Investigations again. And the beautiful thing is, when I first met with Melinda, I asked her, I said, Melinda, did you ever meet anybody who ever returned back to you and showed and rendered a result of being free of the signals? And she said, no, that's never happened to me before. So I said, well, it's nice to meet you. I will be back in about 6 months, and I will be completely healed of this. That's my belief, because I have a very strong faith in Jesus Christ. So in my experience in the past, he's healed me of other things, and I believe he could heal me of this. And so, in fact, I went back to retest for the signals, and in her notes, it shows essentially that the signals were not emanating from Burnor. This is under conclusions and recommendations, but to her. X-Tech evaluation only noted one point of concern as noted in the report above. And of course, I went back and aggressively did therapies on that area, so I am now signal free. And of course, we were in a celebration mode right there. Then I went back to Dr. Hildegard Staninger for a retest. And this report was wonderful. It rendered total turnaround in results. So let's see if I could find that for you in the conclusion. Okay, in general, the advanced biological monitoring tests show a total turnaround in response to outlined recommended treatments, therapies for exposure to advanced nanomaterials and biosensor devices. All values are well within acceptable ranges, and patient-client has not experienced symptoms as previously described in earlier report, toxicological dysfunction analysis, and other reports. So this is really wonderful news here. And of course, her signature there. And so I was free of signals after about 3 or 4 months thereabouts, pain-free. And then after 6 months, I was totally clean. So the signal was breaking up around 3 to 4 months. And then after 6 months, I was totally clean of all signals. So I share this with you. I hope it's helpful. And I'm going to review briefly about the other incidences where after I was healed of the first attack, I ended up having to be the vessel of dealing with further challenges. But this here is the case study for my story. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to review the subsequent attacks, not all of them, but a few of them. And I'm quoting from a timeline that's called Timeline with 10 Attempts on My Life. What we're going to do first is show you the picture of the car, my car that was broken into. We're going to do the best we can on this. And essentially, what happened was the car was broken into, and the real valuable items were left in the car, but there were 2 humongous bags of quarters that were stolen. And that seemed a little strange to me. So what I did was something I felt guided to go ahead and shut off all the lights and get one of those blue light, blue light, black light, light sources. And I went in and took a look at the carpeting in the car, and sure enough, there was a fluorescent green dye. So I went ahead and I cut the carpet and sent it to Dr. Hildegard Staniger, and she has access to a lab. And I'm going to go right now into what her findings were on this piece, this assessment area. This is quoting from the test that's of June 19th, 2015. The report on exposure to designer innovative nanotechnology. The assessment area is the vehicle and living facility. Now, as a notice, Dr. Hildegard likes to copyright, trademark, and register all her reports, so that's her way of keeping everything tidy. I just want to give notice to you on that. And so basically, she says here, the red container number 1, which contained the carpet material from the suspect vehicle, was positive for nanowires. She says further, the analysis revealed, I did have an analysis and a hair analysis, so this is part of the report that points to those findings. The analysis revealed specific materials that would induce colon cancer, breast cancer, and leukemia. And she gets into a lot of technical language here, but we're going to just skip past that. Each used as a specific tag to induce and or monitor cancer mechanisms development. The analysis results indicate that the materials utilized were of a specific, innovative nanotechnology delivery system with a specific intent, such as to give our client cancer at an accelerated rate of time. Now, she further says in another subsequent report on July of 2015, a legal notice of criminal activity by government officials and demand for action by witness Dr. Hildegard Staniger. She says, in relating to her observing of my being repeatedly poisoned, non-consensually of course, by advanced nanomaterials, her professional belief and expertise indicates that I was a recipient of weaponized innovative technology. And she says here further, in this report you can definitely get on clergyvictim.com, on the second tab down, the full report. It says here, to the affiant's knowledge, there have been repeated attempts to murder Keri Burnor, to maim, cause permanent loss of brain function, and monitor her biological presence, genetics, and physiological functions via remote sources. So basically what I want to do here is show you, this isn't going to be professional, this is just to show you in comparison to the PowerPoint, that I have 2 pieces of equipment here. I don't have any signals, I'm not in pain, and I have a total turnaround in results. So I just want to show you, do the best we can. This is the X-Tech, and in order for this to work properly, it has to stay still on the area of concern. So I used to have a 0.02 reading, and now I'm 0.00. So this is wonderful. This is a tremendous breakthrough against this nanotechnology. Now, the other test I'm going to do quickly is the DS100, and that just indicates the presence of RF. So what we're going to do is I am going to show you that in fact my ears are free of frequency. Now, of course, we do have some internet here, so we might see a little activity, but in order for, if someone's been implanted with nanotechnology and if it's activated, it will sustain a red signal right around the area of the ears, as was shown in the PowerPoint. So here we go. I'm going to do the best I can to get this one in with guidance into the camera. And I'm going to do the other ear just for the sake of it. And that was the area of concern. So basically we have no sustained red activity here. So this is a wonderful, a tremendous breakthrough. So what I basically want to say is I'm free by the grace of God. I'm here. Thanks be to God. And you can be free too. This is my belief. And people are going to ask me, well, why would you do this sort of thing? And I did explore a $100 million settlement. The only problem with that is I would be, unable to let other people know what's going on with this technology and that there is a remedy. When I was going through this, I was searching for someone who could help me to get through it, and there was nobody. I had no access to anybody that could tell me that they went through it and got through it on the other side. So my conscience tells me that the best thing for me to do is to let my story out there, to let others know there is in fact hope. We have to disclaim, we have to provide a disclaimer here. Everything we're doing on Christ the Wall Hermitages, all of our Christ the Wall Hermitages program is for educational purposes only. All of what we're doing is based upon my own personal experience of success. It's not easy, but it's certainly a worthwhile feat. Notice we cannot guarantee results. Each case is unique and requires its own customized analysis. Each applicant is to be vetted. If you'd like to contact us, you can do so at ctwh@protonmail.ch. God bless you. I hope this was inspiring for you. And I believe that if we all work together, humanity can get through these kinds of attacks. God bless you all.